Hey YouTube, welcome to another Green Dragon Gaming Club Battle Report. Without us, they never feel like winners. Without them, we couldn't look so good. This is another Pretty Boy Bat Rep, and this is Game 5 of Brawler's Bash. Yes, this is the last video for this tournament. It's about 2:30 in the morning here, and I probably shouldn't even be doing this, but I am because I want to get you guys this last video before Easter and everything comes up and I don't get to it. And plus, it's been a couple weeks, so hope you enjoy it. Excuse any lapses in my memory as I go over this. And in Game 5, I'm playing against Dwarven Holds. I love this picture. It's great. This is not an ideal matchup, in case you were wondering. It was funny because we were out to lunch earlier and Warhammer had joined us and he had told me that I was matched up against Warriors of the Dark Gods, which I was thrilled about. I just think that Orcs and Goblins, that's a good matchup for them. They don't have any ranged. I have a lot of stuff to deal with armor. They don't have as many bodies as me. That it's fine. I know how to play against them. And then I went to look at the sheet. I'm like, oh no, I'm playing dwarves. Which is fine. I certainly have an intimate knowledge of dwarves, thanks to Mark. But yeah, they're not the best matchup. And yeah, I would say they're pretty overpowered at this point in in the meta. They're really good, and plus I play them all the time. So, but that's okay. It's a different player. I'll still have fun with it and see what I can do. So. This is my list. If you've been following the videos, you know what's in it. If not, just pause and take a look over. So, you'll see that this black felt is very familiar. I am back on this table where I played Once Bitten in this KOE. It's a very unique board, a lot of impassable terrain, a lot of hills. So, we'll see maybe if it works better for me this time. So I'm playing Phil Carl, and this is the first time I've actually met Phil or played him, and it's funny because we were talking afterwards, and he lives in Delaware, so he lives pretty close by where we meet to have games during the week. So he ended up coming the week after this, and he's going to be a pretty regular part of our group, I think. So that was awesome, and hopefully in the future I'll put up more casual battle reports and things like that of just us getting games in, maybe on a weekly basis or something. Every once in a while we'll get a game in against each other. But anyway, Phil's a great guy. His army is beautifully painted. I'd seen it earlier, and I told him just how fantastic I thought he was, not knowing I'd be playing him at some point, but really well done with his painting, and he is so into his dwarves. It was fantastic. He actually brought over his own book of grudges, and he wrote my name down before we even started the game. Oh, it was so great. So we're going to get into this one. He has a lot of converted models, so bear with me. As he had to bear with me, I had to ask him like 5 different times for each unit what each thing was, because I just couldn't remember. But all the way on the left is his dragon-looking thing is actually a Grudge Buster, so it's that flying chariot the dwarves have. He's then got a big old unit of crossbows. In front of them is a copter. Behind that, he has 5 pieces of artillery. So he's got 2 cannons behind his crossbowmen. The thing in the middle is a flame cannon. Then he's got a big unit of Deep Watch, and I think he has 5 characters, and he put 4 of them in this unit. Which is, I can't say I blame him, but at the same time, it's like a big middle finger to the face, being like, alright, good luck getting points. Then next to them on the hill, he's got another flame cannon, and then behind that, it looks like a cannon, but it's not, and he kept calling it his mortar. But it's not a mortar, it's actually a catapult. And I should have known that because dwarves don't actually have a mortar. But anyway, so it's his catapult. And then he has another helicopter. He's got a big old unit of graybeards. And in with them, he has one of his two runesmiths. He has the other runesmith in with the Deep Watch. Then he's got his BSB and his general in there. So excuse me, he has three characters in with the Deep Watch, not four. And then all the way on the right, that drill-looking thing, which is just another beautiful model, is his other Grudge Buster. So he's got a pretty classic dwarven gun line, and just two really good combat units with some chaff, some flying chaff. So he decides to drop first, and he castles up in the corner. And this is my deployment. I'm actually okay with him castling up because this board gives me plenty of spots to hide in, and I figure I'm just going to overwhelm him on the one side and see if I can't break through and sweep across, while hiding, obviously, some valuable units behind the hills and impassable terrain, and I think I'll make out okay. So on the left flank, I put up a National Wrecking Team, so it's behind the hill, and I put the crossbowmen in the water. I should have kept them farther back. I pushed them up there because I want them to be in 30-inch range, but I don't know. I wanted to be able to, I guess, just shoot right away at those helicopters, but I think I pushed them up a little too far. I should have kept them behind the water. And as he moved the helicopters up, just shot them. But anyway, that's what I did. I have a spider. My wolf chariots, they don't care if they're in the water because I'm not charging turn one. They're going to just move out of it. No big deal. And then I have a get launcher. National Wrecking Team hiding behind the bookends that are acting as impassable terrain. Got Grotlings front and center in that vacuum between the Sphinx and the bookends. So if he starts to come to center, I can really kind of trap him with those guys. Feral Orcs behind him. I was going to put them into ranks, but since he has a catapult, I figured just better to keep him in horde formation. And then I got the Splatterer behind. I've got my goblins over on the right, and this is the overloaded flank. Got the goblins, I got another get launcher. I got my cave trolls. I'm trying to stay as far away as the flame cannons as possible, and using that impassable terrain to block line of sight. Got both my characters, my BSB and my general behind him. Then I got Pac-Man over there as well, who can really go on a war machine hunting spree. My giant and a scrap wagon. So my whole plan is I've got two pieces of impassable terrain and a hill. So I'm going to basically maneuver these guys around, and he has his one Grudge Buster and his Graybeards, but with the amount of stuff I have over here between the trolls, my characters, the giant, and even the scrap wagon, I think that I can overload that side and force him to have to make a decision. And if he counteracts too aggressively, I can just shove the Feral Orcs up the center, and yeah, just go from there. And I'm hoping to get my Gargantula around and force him to have to shoot at him, and then my Gargantula can get behind and start destroying some of his war machines as well. Because that's the big threat right now. If I can kill his war machines, then maybe if I throw like my entire army into his Deep Watch unit, I can grind it down eventually. It's a tough nut to crack, but I gotta try. And so he sees what I'm doing, and he's like, well, screw it. And he comes out of the corner. I was very surprised, but I was also very pleased in some ways about this because this is a very Brawlers thing to do. But at the same time, I really actually would have rather he just stayed in the corner because I could have kept him pinned, and I think that plays an advantage to me. But he understands just how good / overpowered dwarves are, and he just basically said, well, my one unit Deep Watch can basically kill your whole army, so let's go. And he marches forward, and he's 100% correct about that. So yeah, we're gonna actually mix things up. We're gonna get into combats. Um, we'll see what happens. So yeah, he doesn't want my whole side crushing down on him, so he's gonna try to move forward and see if he can just break through the center. Not a bad move there. Um, because of the way I positioned things, he didn't really have a lot of options for shooting. The only good option he had, as a matter of fact, was with the catapult because its range is just to the point where you can't hide from it. And he's able to kill off 4 feral orcs. Not the end of the world. And then I think with his... This is a terrible picture, by the way, I'm sorry. My grotlings moved up a little too far, so his flame cannon shot them and did 3 wounds, which, again, is not a big deal. So in my turn, I throw the Nash Wrecking Team up. He had tried to shoot at last turn, wasn't quite able to kill it. I couldn't get it far enough where it could hit one of his chaff units and get into his lines, but that's okay. The crossbowmen are in trouble, so I'm going to have to start shooting and hope I can kill those guys. I move the chariots over out of harm's way, thinking if he wants to charge into the crossbow orcs, I'll get stand and shoot, I'll get a fight. Even if they break, then I have the chariots to countercharge. The spider, I'm going for it. I'm moving him back there. He does have 2 cannons. I mean, he needs 3s to hit, but I'm hoping maybe he'll miss 1, and then he only has the 1 cannon shot, and then I'll be healthy enough that I can just go back there and clean up. So we'll see. And then over here, the feral orcs move up tentatively. The goblins move up a little bit because if he wants to come threaten them, I can release Mad Gits. I also want to get a range for my spells. And then move up with the cave trolls. I was pretty proud of myself, actually, for this. Because I made sure and I measured it out carefully that I could wheel and not clip that Sphinx. So now they're in a position where if I need to go right and go around the impassable terrain, I can do that. Or if he starts to come to bear down my center, I'm in his flank, and I can easily charge him in the flank. So those cave trolls are a pivotal part of my strategy right now, is if they can threaten him, it either keeps his forces back, allowing me to deal with them later, or if he wants to push forward, if you get cave trolls in the flank, I don't care who you are, they're going to grind you down eventually. And if I can get them in the flank and another unit into the front or something like that, then I think I can get rid of the Greybeards for sure, and maybe even the Deep Watch. So we'll see how that goes. I move my characters up, keeping everything in the bubble. Pac-Man jumps over the hill. The giant didn't have a ton of movement, so he just moved behind the hill to stay safe for now. Same with the scrap wagon. I'll just go back 1 pick, and you can see I'm hugging the terrain pretty well. So the trolls are blocked by the Sphinx from his flame cannons, and the Sphinx also blocks the cannons from seeing my characters, that sort of thing. So we go into shooting, and I'm trying to pick on his chaff. So magic and shooting, I should say. So I kill off one of his copters, I think, with magic, and then I do a couple wounds to the other. And then I think with a Git launcher, I managed to finish it off. So that's good, getting rid of his chaff. Unfortunately, I couldn't do any wounds to his Grudge Buster, which is going to charge my orcs in the water next turn. So yeah, so now it's Phil Carl and Dwarves, turn 2, and he's charging into the crossbow orcs. I stand and shoot. I think I do 1 wound to him, but not a big deal. And yeah, he just decides to push forward. What he does, though, which is smart, is he keeps the Greybeards close enough to the impassable terrain that I can't charge him with the trolls because I'm in his flank, but I can't fit in his flank. So he keeps him. So he kind of makes a compromise. He moves forward, but he doesn't move so far forward that he's vulnerable. So he's kind of hugging that vacuum right there, and at least he'll give the Grotlings a perfect chaffing opportunity. He sees the spider coming, so he moves his drill / grudge buster over because he knows he's probably going to have to countercharge with it. 8 wounds is tough to get through, even with all of his artillery. Okay. Big sigh. Big sigh, folks. This was really unexpected. So, like I said, a lot of his things are proxied and that sort of thing, especially his artillery. And I made sure that his cannons couldn't see my guy. The flame cannons I'm not really concerned about, but they were out of range anyway. What I forgot about, though, was what he kept calling his mortar, and it's not a mortar, it's a catapult. And I think the corner of my base was just out enough that he could see it. Well, I shouldn't say should. It was out enough that he could see it. It wasn't by much, but it was just that one artillery piece I wasn't paying that much attention to. I was more concerned about the cannons. So he shoots it. He needs a 4. He hits. Now, most catapults are strength 7, but he's a dwarf, so his is strength 8. Why? Who knows? But it's strength 8, so he only needs a 2 to wound. He wounds. I have a 5 up ward save. I fail it. It does D3 wounds, so he needs a 5 or 6 to kill me, and he rolls a 6. Oh my gosh, I was so bitter about this. And he was like rubbing the book as he was doing each of these rolls, like doing some dwarven incantation or whatever. And he did this all game. Every time he needed a big roll, he would rub the book, and I would yell at him not to rub the book, and he would get whatever roll he needed. And so we math hammered this out. It was only about a 2% chance that this would happen, where he would shoot it, hit, wound, fail ward save, and would actually do enough to kill me. But the stars just aligned and it happened. So that's huge. Now I'm in trouble because those trolls, those trolls have no discipline at all now. And that's Phil holding them up. I think he called it Betsy or something like that. So we're giving Betsy her recognition. Well done. And then, as if, the other artillery wasn't slouches on their own, both of his cannons open up. And no, none of them miss. Both hit, and they do almost max wounds, only leaving my Gargantua with 1 wound left, which was really sad. I needed... If he did 5 wounds, that would have been okay. Even 6 wounds. But 7 wounds now, yeah, I mean... I'll kill one of his artillery pieces, but that chariot's just going to take me out, and there's nothing I can do about it. Over here, yeah, I'm an idiot, so... I should have kept them behind the water, made him take DTs. He didn't have to because he could position it in a certain way, and I am not steadfast because I'm in the water, so he breaks them and runs them down. Now, the orcs aren't a tremendous amount of points, but still, easily could have avoided that, and now my chariots have to waste time countercharging it and going through the water for their trouble. So my turn, I charge. Wolf chariots charged in the flank. My spider charges into the first cannon to seek revenge. And I'm going to overrun into the second one and hopefully kill it. But probably not, because I think his impact hits are going to kill me first. My wrecking team moves up slowly. And so you can kind of see how the board looks now. The grotlings go up in chaff, which is great. The problem is that my trolls fail stupidity, and there's nowhere for them to go. They're just kind of... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Miraculously, I passed stupidity with my reroll, but they can't charge, which is the sad part. So I reform them. So again, they're still facing the flank of both those units if he wants to come forward, but now it's just highly unlikely I'll actually have a chance to charge with them. I'm extra super duper careful I hide my BSB so that Betsy doesn't kill him as well. National Wrecking Team moves up in front of the goblins. I'm just going for magic at this point to hopefully whittle those guys down. The feral orcs reform into ranks because I know it's coming. And the giant comes over because I need help. That's all I can say. Pac-Man and the Scrap Wagon push forward. I'm confident that if not the Scrap Wagon, Pac-Man can take out his backfield, and we'll go from there. And, oh, okay, I guess... Oh, so this is after everything. So my National Wrecking Team actually moved up farther than I thought. Um, but anyway, the Wolf Chariots take out the Grudge Buster. I take a wound from being in the water, which is fine. And my Spider kills the first cannon, overruns into the second one. So, and then Phil, Carl, and Dwarves turn 3. Yeah, the Grudge Buster goes in. He charges the Chaff, I think, with just the Deep Watch. He finally is able to kill the Snatcher Wrecking Team with his crossbows. And he kills the Spider. So in my turn, things go from bad to worse. My Feral Orcs fail their Frenzy check and have to charge into the Deep Watch. I think we all know how this is going to go. On the other hand, through magic, I actually whittled down these Greybeards pretty significantly, and then I send the Nasher Wrecking Team through. And he's just taking the unit filler off to show that I killed a bunch of dwarves. Yeah, so this was a letdown. After I had killed the Grudge Buster, I reformed my Wolf Chariot so that they were in the flank of the Deep Watch, and I needed a 9 on Swift Stride to get in, so it's average, and I failed it. With the Feral Orcs going in, if I'd been able to get these chariots into the flank, that would have been great, because I would have gotten enough combat res that I think that would hold them up, and just maybe I can get some help. Even if I had gone in solo, I'm going to win combat most likely, and then hold them up even on their own. So that was a letdown. And so this is the cluster in the middle and sad state of affairs. I think this table's just cursed. Just rough time with it. I move the goblins up, and I'm throwing Nash Wrecking Teams, or not Nash Wrecking Teams, Mad Gits in his face. So if those guys want to charge forward, they're going to be a world of pain. But quite honestly, he doesn't need to charge them forward, and I don't think he should. So, and I charge Pac-Man to this Grudge Buster to get some revenge. And yeah, so he wins combat. I know, you're as shocked as I am. He wins combat against the Feral Orcs. They break. I run. He doesn't catch me. He just moves like that. And then he reforms to face the Git launcher. He doesn't really care about the trolls because he's confident they'll fail their stupidity, which is probably true. And I don't think he's overly concerned about the giant either, because Deep Watch with a couple characters in them really have nothing to fear. Yeah, so that's how things look there. And I charged the flank with the giant because why not? It's brawlers. I gotta try something. Maybe I get lucky. And now he has that depleted unit of Greybeards that he really couldn't move anywhere. He was kind of blocked up, which is great because my Wolf Chariots can charge them in the flank, and I need like a 7 on Swift Stride, and they fail. Again. And I take 2 more wounds for my trouble from going through the water. So over here, I win the combat with the Grudge Buster. I do 4 wounds to it, so it has 1 wound left. I just let it go. I don't bother to chase it. And then in my turn, I charge with Pac-Man into the first flame cannon so that he can overrun into the other cannon. And the Scrap Wagon's able to make it into Big Betsy, which is nice. And then the Trolls fail Stupidity. Awesome. But right now they're safe for the time being. I move my BSB over. I take 4 wounds on my giant. His king has the thing where he does D3 wounds per wound, so that's not too surprising. I win combat though. I forget actually what I did, but I must have killed a few dwarves. Either that or I just stuck on my leadership 10 and he just turned to face. So poor Ned is probably not going to survive next time. And then, yeah, so I clean up the war machines. Scrap Wagon kills Big Betsy. Pac-Man destroys the flame cannons, overrunning into his last artillery piece, which is a cannon. So that's great, at some points at least. His crossbows have reformed into ranks. So, I charge again with my wolf chariots, because now my scrap wagon and the chariots are in an even better position to combo charge the Greybeards. I'm thinking, not only will I win, but I can actually break the unit and run them down, which would be a nice chunk of points, and he's got a runesmith in there. But no, my wolf chariots fail, and I lose a chariot from going through the water, and I didn't need much at all to make this charge. Oh, so terrible. So Scrap Wagon goes in solo into the flank. Still have high hopes, though. Yeah, I finish off the last cannon. The Scrap Wagon whiffs and does like 3 impact hits. I think I kill like 1 or 2 guys. The only good thing now is that I've killed enough that I'm going to get half points for the unit, but yeah, they're not going anywhere now, and they turn to face. And yeah, I was hoping Ned would yell and ball. He does not. He gets his face kicked in. Deep Watch turn to face the trolls, who are drooling all over the place, and charge into them. Oh, sad. Very sad. And meanwhile, he's moving up his Grudge Buster, his drill, who had rallied, and he's just moving him out of the line of sight of Pac-Man. And his crossbows turn to face him as well. Yep, so the trolls get butchered. And then there wasn't really much left to do in the game. I think this was turn 6, and so his crossbows actually had faced away from Pac-Man, and it was a pretty long charge, and again, it's Brawlers, there's nothing to lose. I only have 1 wound left, but if I can break this unit, get those points, why not try it? So I charge him into the rear. I killed like 4 dwarves with him. The problem is that he snuck through 1 strength 5 wound, and yeah, I just couldn't save it. So that's the last picture of the game. Phil had his crossbow guy holding a goblin head posing there, so that was cute. And dwarves win! Shocking, I know. After this game, I was just hanging out, like cleaning up, and some guy came up to me and was like, "Oh, how'd your last game go?" And I said, "Oh, well, I played dwarves," and he's like, "Don't need to say anything else." I understand exactly what happened. So maybe I need to make a different video about it, but I won't go on and on about how terribly broken dwarves are, but they are. Anyway, dwarves won. Phil Carl played a great game. He's a really fun guy. We had a good old time, and he got about 7,000 points roughly. And I think I got like 2,700 points. I got all of his war machines and basically his chaff and half points for the Greybeards, but his Deep Watch with his characters are still alive, and that's most of his points, so that's about it. MVPs for this game. Yeah, for Dwarven Holds, it was the Deep Watch. He literally started the game out saying, when he decided to come out from his corner, "I think my Deep Watch can basically kill your whole army." And he was right, and I knew he was right, which is why I wish he stayed in his corner. What are you going to do? And then, for Orcs and Goblins, Pac-Man will get MVP. He killed 3 artillery pieces and got half points for the Grudge Buster. And he made a gamble at the end trying to get the crossbowman and almost pulled it off. Not quite, but hey. For a flying goblin character, it's pretty good. I'm going to give him that. So, what did we learn today? In this segment, dwarves don't need to gunline. That's an old complaint back in 8th edition and beforehand. You know, dwarves were a one-dimensional army. It was basically a shooting army. You'd set up your gun line. You were too slow to do much else, and it was either you blew your opponent apart before he got to you, or you didn't and you got overwhelmed. And I agree that's a boring way to play, and dwarves definitely need to be fine tuned. Um, Holding my tongue there, but at this point in the game, yeah, they don't need to gun line. I mean, he started off in a gun line, and even though he only had a few combat units, he could break out of that corner and do just fine. So, for all you dwarf players out there that are playing them kind of the old-fashioned gunline way, you can play them really aggressively. Not to say that you don't take shooting, but it honestly they're better if you take them out of the corner and you actually get them into fights. I mean, they have a lot of things going on for them that make them a really good combat army. So just put that there. Man Muncher was doomed. I mean, I talked about the statistics about it happening, and I'll just have you know, um, because the criticism I got, I think, about this list from everybody initially, for anybody that read it the first time, was I had two characters that essentially were running solo with no units being joined. So every time people would read over my list, they'd be like, "You don't have boar boys? Where do your characters go?" And I kind of just say, "Oh, usually they run by themselves, or maybe I'll put them in one of the infantry units. It just depends." And people kind of like raise their eyebrows and just say, "Good luck." But through all the practice games and all the tournament games, this is the only game that I've lost one of those characters due to shooting. The only time. And it is my fault. I should have paid closer attention. But yeah, it was just meant to happen. And I think it was meant to happen because it was just like karma. I kind of deserved it at this point because my artillery had just been sniping guys throughout this whole tournament. So it happens. What can I say? Wolf Chariots for the fail. Oh my god. I love this unit and it usually does really well, but it failed 3 charges this game. Uh, I mean, it could have really helped me out in a couple situations, and didn't want to fight. Once they got in the water and in the lava, they were just done. Um, I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna get into the tourney recap here. I'll try to keep it brief. It's getting really late now, and I don't want to keep you guys here too long. But just going over the MVP scores of all the games. So there's really 6, even though there's only been 5 games because there was a tie for one of the games. So Pac-Man won it twice, my artillery won it twice, and then my general Man Muncher won once and Twitch won once. I think this is very telling. I had a very up and down tournament. I ranked 31st out of like 44 people, which is not good, but that's my overall score. If you look at just the battle score, I move up like 6 spots, so I end up being like 25th, which is still not great, but it's more middle of the pack. So, I mean, it was pretty mediocre performance, and I'll go into that a little bit more, but I had my highs and lows, and when I had my highs, I mean, I think one of the strengths of what I brought to the table were my characters. My all my characters except my BSB won MVP at some point, and my BSB did really well. Actually, it's a cheap character. It's not meant to really be in combat, but he would pick away at units with his shotgun, and I think I only lost him once the entire tournament. So he's very durable. And yeah, Pac-Man is just an absolute menace. I am in love with this character build. He will be a staple for every green skin list I run for the foreseeable future. And I also liked my generals build. I really did. However, I think at 6,000 points, it was a little much. I think at 4,500 he would do better. At 6,000, he became more vital for his leadership than his combat prowess. When he got into combat, he did pretty well most of the time, but yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. But I liked his build. I'm really glad I brought artillery. Orca Goblin artillery is good. It's useful, and with my list is combat oriented to a large extent, but it's slow. And if I don't have range to deal with monsters and artillery and other things like that, I can't make my opponent come to me, and then I have to chase him around the board, and that's just tough. I need some board control, so that was great. And I mean, I've talked about my wizard before in pyromancy, all tournament long. Just really good spell lore. Um, so that's that. So I'm gonna go over kind of things that went bad for me or that I didn't like. I'll do that first because I want to end on a positive note. So tournament woes, just the absolute chaos. Oh my god! I mean, it's my first Brawlers Bash, so it's a new experience for me, and I went in, I think, with a good mindset that I got myself into the habit in the practice games to go for points and to not worry about conserving anything. Um, and I think I played to that style. I took risks. I went hell for broke and just, tried to get as many points as I could. But it's a different game, and the games are a lot swingier, as you've seen, because people are taking way more risks, and the lists are skewed, and you're playing with these huge lists that are kind of bulky, and the balance is not perfect because the balancing was meant for 4,500 and so on. Um, so that was a lot to get used to, and for me, and I'll kind of talk about it more in list construction. I just think I just had so many units, and remember having all these different special rules and all their unique strengths and weaknesses. It was a lot to manage. It was very taxing. Um, so anyway, I think what hurt me was not so much my playing. I think I played pretty well overall. Not that I didn't make mistakes. I certainly made my share of mistakes, but I think the list construction was just wrong. I think it worked well when I made basically no really noticeable mistakes, or if just some things went more my way. But as soon as I made a minor mistake, it really hurt me. And you see that in a couple of my games, whereas, say, at 4,500 or with a different style list, making a minor mistake, it could hurt me somewhat, but it's not going to break the game for me. What I thought going into this tournament was at 6,000 points, Orcs and Goblins would get better, and I was wrong about that. Orcs and Goblins is a good army, but I think 4,500 is the right size for them. At 6,000, their weaknesses just get magnified, and mainly it's with leadership. It's a much bigger bubble to keep. It really is, because I can't just take more numbers and just consolidate as I get bigger. Like Feral Orcs are capped out at 30. And so I have to take more units and more toys, which is great, but now I have a lot more stuff that I have to babysit. And so I'm constantly balancing every single game. Okay, what's immune to psych? What's frenzied? What has terrible leadership? What's going to panic this unit or not panic this unit? And it's a lot to keep tabs on. And that's partly why I put my characters on boars, so I can move them around to get them to the spots where they need to get their leadership. But it just wasn't enough in some cases, and it came back to bite me. So I think after this experience, one, I might not take Orcs and Goblins for Brawlers, but if I do, I would definitely take a different list. I would definitely take a list that would minimize some of those weaknesses that I saw. I think I needed to take like a general on a Wyvern, so at least he's got an 18-inch bubble, and either take like the BSB with the crown that gives him 18 inches on a Goblin, or the GGI, the Great Green Idol. And maybe consolidate my force a little bit more, not have quite as many drops. And I think I need to skew it a little bit more too, to be more glass cannony. I took my list building approach like I do for a balanced tournament or normal games, to be an all-comers list, to have a little bit of everything, and to be very flexible. And it was, and that worked out great in certain situations, but again, I think for this type of tournament, where points conservation doesn't matter, I could have built a more glass cannony list. One unit that comes to mind, which would have been great, if I could have fielded it, was like a Nasher herd, just a big unit of those guys, something like that. But anyway, I think that's how I would approach it next time, and that would have helped me. Um, the sheer size of the game too, it's like I said, it's very taxing, and I just felt drained. I mean, after my first game, I just felt exhausted. It's just a lot to keep track of. At 4,500, if you've been playing long enough, you get into a routine, especially if you're playing with a particular list, and then you're at the tournament and you're just in like a routine, and you don't even have to think that much until you encounter kind of a novel situation. But but with this, I mean, it was just a lot. It was a quite a strain on my resources. And then the last thing I'll just say is that so it's funny, it was me and there were two other Orcs and Goblins players there. Now the one fella, I had seen my Grail Thrones. I'd never played him or anything, but he has a gorgeous army, absolutely gorgeously painted army. Um, so he's always like almost a shoe-in to get some painting award. And then Warhammer was there. So Warhammer and we actually met up. He came over to our hotel room the first night, and there were a bunch of guys over. We were just drinking beers, and we had like a nice little friendly competition to see who would be the best Orcs and Goblins player. We were both egging each other on and trash talking to see who would win best in race. And at the end, he had seen my score and he's like, "Hey man, like congrats, you won best in race," because I was ahead by like 5,000 points um, from the nearest Orcs and Goblins player. And despite our competition, I didn't end up winning. The other guy won because his painting was so good that even though he was like 5,000 points behind me in battle score, he ended up winning. He placed like one ahead of me because of his paint. So I was best in race because I got the most battle score points, but I'm not best in race because of paint. Um, I won't comment on that here, but I mean, I'll just tell you personally, like painting obviously is not my forte. If you've watched my videos, it's maybe table ready, like it looks good enough to bring to a tournament, but I'm not going to win any painting awards because I just love the game. That's my part of the hobby. I like collecting and playing the game. I'm trying to get into the painting a little bit more and learn some skills and get better at it, but that's just not for me. I can admire what other people do, but I'm never going to win painting awards. Um, and it gets somewhat limiting if you go to a tournament and unless you win best general, you can't win any awards, or you have a very hard time if your painting is just not top tier. But anyway, that's how it is. It would have been nice after this tournament to walk home with something, but it wasn't meant to be. But I'll still take that to the bank. I at least did okay for Orcs and Goblins. Um, Moving on to the positive notes. So all my opponents were fantastic. I can't emphasize that enough. This is the second time I've been to Atomic Empire, and the people that go there are great. Um, I've never, since playing there, so played 10 games there, I have not had a game where I felt it was tense. Like it just wasn't fun. I never walked away from a table with a bad taste in my mouth or anything like that. Everybody's really fun, relaxed, cool, collected. Like, it's all good. So, and the organizers, the Webster brothers are taking over organizing this event, and they did a good job this year. I think they're going to do a great job in the future. Um, Really excellent job. Um, well done. And then the venue itself is awesome. If you've never been, you gotta check it out. And they have beers on draft inside. It's great. And the place is huge, and it's just a lot of fun. It's an offbeat tourney, and the train tables were really offbeat too. They were pretty like, I guess, wonky is a good word, but in a good way. Like I've said before in one of my other videos, I think they pose some interesting challenges and advantages. Instead of just doing the normal kind of like perfectly patterned table that you see at tournaments where everything is very symmetrical and it's almost like a non sequitur, like nobody cares. Um, and it's a very different style tournament, so it was kind of fun. I don't think I would want to do these type of tournaments all the time. It's nice to go back to basics and play straight out of the book and really get down to pure tactics, but I like these too. These are fun. They're different flavor. You see some very different lists, and you gotta adjust. There were obviously some high moments as well as some low moments, but the high moments were great. It was good to see the Orcs and Goblins kill some stuff. And the last thing I'll say about this is just the competition is excellent. Um, I thought the competition was tough last time. It was even better this time around. None of my opponents were slouches. All of my opponents not only knew how to play the game, but had been around the block. Like, these were veteran players. These are tournament players that really know what they're doing. Uh, so that's great. Um, so it was really fun to go against these different guys and see what my stuff was made of. So that's about it. I'm just as sad as you are that I'm done with these videos, but I do have one last piece of content that I will release for you guys. I'm hoping to do it Monday. See if I have time. But in any case, by next week I'll have this posted up. I am doing a written kind of thing for brawlers. Mark had talked about doing written battle reports in the future. So I wanted to try this. It's not an actual battle report. I'm actually just going to write fluff for my army, like what I conceive my army to be fluff-wise, and the fluff is based on what happened at Brawlers and the adventures my greenskins got into. So, it's the epic of Man Muncher's Wah, as narrated by Leopold Herzing. Basically, Leopold Herzing is going to be like an empire storyteller slash bard that is kidnapped by one of my orcs when they raid a village, and he talks his way out of getting killed by telling the warlord that he'll write down his tales of heroism and conquest, basically. So it's an empire prisoner narrating Man Muncher and the Green Tide's, misadventures on his warg. So, let me know if you'd be interested in more stuff like that. I'm gonna try it out and see if it's something people enjoy. I'll have a great time writing it, and I just figured it'd be something a little different. Anyhow, that's all I've got for tonight. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. You know the drill. Leave comments below about anything regarding the videos or the tournament or just tactics in general and stuff like that. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Have a good one.